6:38, I'm Larry Richard.
And I'm John Shumway. Good morning. Glad you're with us on this tax day, the day we all must file. Or is it?
Well, you know what? There's an anxiety. It's almost like Y2K every year. Remember when the turn into the 2000, everyone thought the world would implode? I mean, it comes every year, and everybody knows this date is coming, but yeah,
still,
there's still things you can do. Joining us on our 84 Lumber News line is Kevin McQuillan from the McQuillan Group, and he is crunching numbers even at this moment, I'm sure, taking a breath to talk to us. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning, Larry. Good morning, John.
Hey, I'm curious, who doesn't have to file today?
Few people. Basically, if you're traveling out of the country, military, on business, you get an automatic extension, and there's a few other exceptions, but that's the main one.
And if you don't make any money.
And if you don't make any money, correct. Apologies, yes.
Yeah, I heard that if the government owes you money, then this deadline isn't as ominous as the rest of us think.
Correct. There's a fair number of people who don't earn very much money who have some amount of withholdings, and depending on their situation, probably could file and get money back. So you do hear commercials and advertisements for, make sure you're filing and taking advantage of the money coming back to you. That's usually that type of person.
How many people these days are filing electronically?
I haven't caught the latest numbers, but it's definitely trended up. I know 5 or 6 years ago, when the IRS really put the push on to electronically file, it was something like 10%. And I believe they issued numbers like they wanted to be above 85 to 90%. And the last I remember hearing, which to be candid is probably over a year ago, they were ahead of what they projected in terms of electronic filing.
Wow. It's so much easier that way compared to how we all used to have to do it. But if you really can't get it done, if you think you're not going to make it, you can file for an extension, but that comes with a caveat.
Correct. The big caveat is extending only extends the time to file, so you still have to figure out roughly where you stand. So in other words, draft your taxes and see if you owe or if you have a refund. If you have a refund, you can simply send the form in. If you owe, you should send a payment today, because the IRS really prefers not to be a bank, and they charge really, really high rates if you use them. So you're far better off using another source of money. I always tell clients, as an absolute last resort, you can use the IRS, but I really don't recommend it.
Does filing electronically save you anything in time as far as just doing the work?
From our perspective, absolutely. We're processing so much less paper, and that's a wear and tear on machinery, and it's a big pain when you're trying to rush returns out and your printer goes down. And there's no question electronic filing has, from a preparer perspective, is a lot more efficient, and that we're able to pass on to our customers because we're not spending as much time processing things versus preparing returns.
And the other thing about the technological age is you can go to irs.gov and print any of these forms, and the extension form is 4868. But as Kevin points out, if you have to kind of cipher and figure out at least a good guesstimate if you owe Uncle Sam money, and then you have to send that in, even though you can file with that extension at a later time.
Correct. That is correct. And you have till October 15th once you extend.
Biggest mistake people make is they rush at the end.
The biggest, in terms of extension, I think the biggest mistake people make are usually relative to either payments they made towards their taxes, and that's probably the number one thing I see. People assume they've made a payment and don't really put the time in, figuring out their real tax due and what they paid in, so they say, well, I'm fine. And generally speaking, I think clients or taxpayers tend to make themselves believe things that are different than their current tax reality.
And simple math errors. In a lot of cases, if you're filing electronically with a system, there are some checks and balances to that, as opposed to, the old way you'd have to fill out on a worksheet and send it in. At least because if you get a mistake, it picks it up with a computer and they flag you right away.
I received one call from a family member who was insistent on preparing their taxes manually, and they were asking me what happened when line 32 subtracted from line 21 and netted out to line 44.
Say what?
I I at that moment immediately offered to do their tax return gratis, not answer that question.
Yeah, I can believe that. Hey, is it too late to make some sort of a tax deduction contribution or put money somewhere, or did that all end back on January 1st?
If you want to give money to me, John, I'm happy to accept it.
Larry will take it, I'm sure.
Deductible, Larry.
Deductible, really, you're limited at this point. The bulk of things you can do, as you alluded to, is 12/31 and planning. Anything you do by December 31st is planning. Really, the only thing left to do of any substance for most people is a retirement contribution, and just if you've made significant charitable donations, to make sure you have the proper documentation for it. Sometimes organizations, nonprofits, don't necessarily provide you all the right documentation. And if you make a significant donation, you do need documentation to support it, and it needs to be verifiable, by the IRS, because those larger donations like that can sometimes be looked at. But for most taxpayers, it's looking at, can I fund an IRA? Did I have an opportunity to fund a company plan? If I didn't, and you could still put some money away today, just get the check into the investment company today.
Well, for many, the anxiety will end by midnight or sooner today, including you get a break for the next few days, and it coincides with the Easter week. So enjoy your time off. Well-deserved, I'm sure, Kevin, and we'll talk again real soon.
Thank you so much, Larry. I hope you guys appreciate the IRS went to great trouble to change the weather here locally in celebration of April 15th. It's kind of like a little ominous.
Yeah,
ominous sign.
Forces people to sit inside and focus, because if it was sunny, you wouldn't want to do anything.
Exactly. So they do have a wide range of powers, and one of them is obviously the weather.
It's really scary that you would even think that way.
I think he could work for them. IRS.gov if you need forms and details. Kevin McQuillan from the McQuillan Group here in Pittsburgh on our 84 Lumber Newsline on KDKA at 6:45. Traffic powered by Bowser Nissan. Here's Adam Gusky.